South Park, The Return of COVID, premiered on Paramount Plus and serves as a continuation of the first South Park special post COVID, which is a deal of 14 specials that Paramount Plus signed with the creators of South Park. Whether all 14 specials will be flashed forward and see the boys as adults, or if they're going to go back to them being as kids, is still unsure. There's still 12 specials to go, so anything's possible. Part 1 ended on a big cliffhanger, having the viewers guess how the boys were going to change the outcome of COVID if they were going to be successful, and who the hell Victor Chaos was. But really, we all knew who it was, right? To talk about this new special, later on, I am going to be joined by my friend Matt, who's a mega South Park fan. But before he comes on and joins me, I want to go ahead and give you my quick thoughts on the episode. Right off the bat, there's a mixture of good and bad within this episode for me. Let's just start with the good stuff. Everything with Butters was just great. I expected that Victor Chaos would be Butters, as I think most of us did, but having him be the evil genius in sorts and be truly dangerous to the people that he meets was just great, because as a kid pretending to be Professor Chaos, all he really wanted to do was bring fear and destruction to those around him. And now as an adult, with the information that he's gained from NFTs, he now has that. Cartman's storyline with his family was great in part 1, and that continued over into part 2. We did see less of his family in this one because he was focused on stopping time travel and keeping his family. But it was fun to see the mannerisms of his old past self present itself to this new Eric Cartman, whether it be him meeting Butters in the bathroom and then all of a sudden you hear him in the background saying, Butters. Or at the times that he pronounces Kyle's name wrong, saying Kale, or even him muttering "God damn it" under his breath. Something that this episode really did well was wrap everything up. There was one little plot point with Eric that I did not like, but I'll get into that in a second. But for the most part, everything wrapped up nicely. And if they did decide to end the series with this, I think that I would be okay with that. Now, we do have 12 more specials to go. We have TV seasons coming on Comedy Central. So this is by far no means the end of South Park. But I'm just saying, if this was the end of South Park, I think as a viewer, I would be okay with it, and I would be able to accept it. The stuff with Randy on screen this time around was much less important, I feel like, than the first part. And the first part had Randy and Stan dealing with the tension between them, and while in part 2 they did have that little interaction at the end, it just felt much less dramatic in part 2 and less intense as the interactions in part 1. But at the end of the day, what saves the day? Tegrity. The episode did take a little bit longer than I'd like to get to this time travel stuff because they teased it so much in part 1. I thought that at least half the episode would be them back in time dealing with their younger selves, and they didn't do that route. So that was a little bit confusing to me because they teased it so much. I thought that a lot of the episode would be back in time. But it was nice seeing Stan and Kyle working together this time around and not arguing for the whole 1 hour special. In the end, with all the horrible, criminal, deceitful stuff Eric has done over the years, part of me did feel really bad for him that he got screwed over at the end. He sacrificed his family for the greater good, and he ended up homeless. Was this as strong as part 1? I personally don't believe so. I think that part 1 has more rewatchability to it, and part 1 had more laugh out loud moments. But, as I said earlier, my friend Matt's going to be jumping on right now because he's going to give you his thoughts on part 2. And he is a mega fan. He might be a bigger South Park fan than me. So let's jump over to Matt and see what he has to think about this part 2 special.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matthew Schaefer, 1/3 of a podcast called Suck My Balls, a South Park review, where each and every week we deliver to you, the listener, podcast reviews. And we just kind of go through each episode by episode, episodically. So thank you for having me once again, Mr. Trace, right back here on this amazing YouTube channel. Talk about South Park post-COVID, the return to COVID. And boy, was it a return, I would say. And going into this, my expectations were, a little all over the board. I don't want to toot my own horn, but we kind of, at least my group of friends, we did predict that Clyde was going to get killed off here in some form or fashion. Now, whether or not he's killed off, obviously going forward as the future was changed, it remains to be seen. But we definitely made sure that we included Clyde, getting killed off. We actually thought Cartman was conning his family, that there was a long con involved there. And as if you discussed, and as we saw, there was no long con. Cartman legitimately found Judaism, found a family, came to terms with his previous life that was, and he made a better self-sustainable life for himself. But unfortunately, in the end, Cartman was the one who had to sacrifice himself. In fact, December 16th, 2021 should now be considered Cartman Day. He's Jesus Christ. He sacrificed himself for the betterment of humanity, because if Cartman does not give up his happiness, then nobody else would have got it.
Yeah, definitely my expectations for part two. I I thought that there would be more time travel, to be honest. Like they teased a big time travel thing in part one. So I was a little bit, I mentioned this earlier before you jumped on, but I was a little bit let down that the time travel stuff didn't actually happen until like near the end of the episode. I would have liked to see more of an interaction between them and their younger selves, running around the old town with the tinfoil on. That would have been nice. But yes, I was also very wrong about Cartman. I thought that he was playing the long game with "fuck you, Kyle." I thought that he was going to give a big reveal, and that never happened. He genuinely found happiness and love with his new family.
And at the end of the episode, when they got to the point where Randy gives everybody Tegrity for free, and everyone just, everyone's just high and everyone's just happily going along, like, I'm sorry, man, I just needed to cut you some slack. And everybody just walking through town. No, man, you're right. I was a dick during the pandemic. It's okay, man. I know. So like all that was amazing. And then you see them in the restaurant or in the Denny's Applebee's Max. Stan's coming back from Mars. You've got Sheila and Shelly that are still alive. Apparently Kyle's got kids. We didn't get to meet his wife. And Butters is the manager of a Denny's. So, and then they go, he's here. Cartman's here. And then you see him sitting outside, homeless. And I was just like, man, it was a gut punch, because like I was legitimately brought to tears with how beautiful the ending was and the message they were trying to deliver. Hey, man, we've all been through a lot. Let's just start cutting each other some slack. People get crazy when we're all upset and we're all running around during a worldwide whatever you want to call it, a worldwide pandemic, I guess what it was called, but the world that we were living in. So, and then you just see Cartman, like I mentioned, he sacrificed himself, as he did in the special itself. He brought up that he didn't want to lose his family, and that's why he was trying to prevent time travel. But you are right. There was not a lot of time travel. I had hoped they were going to bring back the Star Trek nerds in some form or fashion to kind of figure it out.
I didn't even think about that.
But they didn't bring that back. Wendy apparently was just able to read the notes, but so I guess she's really smart and she was able to just replicate Kenny's work.
Well, she said she was a doctor in the show. So, but I don't know what type of doctor.
Right, exactly. I mean, what is it? Randy's a doctor, technically. He's a geologist. He's got his doctorate.
Like your general thoughts on the episode, is it a plus sign, negative sign? What would you give? How often do you see yourself rewatching this episode? How do you compare it to part one?
Really good question. Comparing it to part one, I thought it was, from a storyline and character development standpoint, a little bit better, because we got more reveals, especially Butters. I mean, one of my buddies, and he's administrator on my Facebook group, Justin, he pointed out, he goes, I want them to like open the door to Victor Chaos's cell and him just turn around and go, well, hey fellas. And he did that exact thing. And I was just dying. So there was a lot more callback references, I think, for the diehard fans in this second part. I mean, we had Cartman, you had Cartman and Butters in the bathroom scene. Lou. You see Butters as an adult still dropping his pants to go to the bathroom. And
Cartman, I was wondering when he went to the urinal, I was like, is he still going to do that? And he did.
It was great. And then I'm waiting for it. I'm like, come on, Butters. And I was like, there it is. Yes, Kevin, ready to go. Butters. And you get Butters. You gotta have me stab the Butters. Will I go back and watch it? I don't know, because it is good, but that end is just hard as a Cartman fan for me to watch, knowing that he actually was not trying to con them. He actually became a better person. He had a good family who loved him apparently for 18 years. Now, canonically speaking, there's supposed to be more specials. So if they keep them adults, you could do something with Cartman. I don't know. But the way they put it, I mean, if you want to look at Cartman's history, he deserves what he gets. Don't get me wrong. But as far as
yeah, but as fans of Cartman, we like all the absurd, evil things that he does, because we're thinking to ourselves, how is he getting away with this? And I don't know. I just didn't expect them to make him homeless junkie at the end. What are your expectations going forward? What would you like to see? Give me your quick thoughts on that.
I mean, if you want to keep it separate canonically from the seasons on Comedy Central, I'd like to continue down this route as adults to see what that would be like. However, based on how this special ended, it seemed like it was kind of wrapped up with a nice little neat bow, right? As far as like, finding solace and happiness, giving you that South Park happy ending. I mean, in theory, I'm not saying the show would, but if they wanted to stop the show now, if for whatever reason we got fired based on that ending, you could wrap up the series that way because it was a nice, wholesome, quote unquote ending, right? So it's very hard to think where they're going to go with on that character spectrum.
Yeah, going forward, I would like to see a mixture of kids and adults. Not every two specials need to be tied in together, I think. I don't think that there needs to always be a part one, part two going forward with the rest of the specials. If they do decide to do that, then I'm going to trust Matt and Trey, but I don't think it's necessary. Thanks for coming on. I want to keep this relatively short. I loved being able to talk South Park with you. And I promise I am going to be, after the holidays, working on we did a video together, for those who don't know, talking about and dissecting. It was like an hour long, of the South Park movie, bigger, longer, and uncut. So that one is coming. You can see Matthew again on my channel with that video.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you so much for having me back. You can check me out on Twitter and on Instagram at Matthew_Shaver, as well as you can check us out as a podcast at Suck My Balls Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and just look up your podcast provider, Suck My Balls, a South Park review.
All right, once again, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for listening to Matt and I's thoughts on South Park Part 2, The Return of COVID, on Paramount Plus. Go ahead and check it out yourself if you really love South Park. I think that this is a good two-part event for South Park. They knocked it out of the park. They did a really good job. So if you like this video, hit that subscribe button down below, leave a comment, leave a like, and I'll see you next time.